What's going on, Buffs Nation? It's David here again, talking CU Buffs football, Coach Prime Deion Sanders, and everything in between. Thank you so much for checking out my video today. I'm very excited to share, from my perspective as a local CU alum and Buffaloes fan, what should the expectations be for Coach Prime and the Buffs going into year one, what makes a successful season and all of that. So I'm going to break down the schedule, kind of talk about the conference a little bit. But of course, before I get started, would appreciate it if you hit that subscribe if you haven't yet. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for the comments and the video likes. It really helps push this out to other college football fans, and I really appreciate that. My goal is to hopefully hit 1,000 before the spring game. We'll see. But yeah, I want to know, as we dive in, what your expectations are for the Buffs. What do you think makes an A-plus season for Coach Prime? Now, of course, the Buffs, as you guys know now, 1-11 last year, overhaul of the roster. Coach Prime brought in the number one transfer class. I think we're the overall 21st or 20th overall class if you consider all the high school recruits and all of that. But this is a tough schedule that the Buffs have coming up. I'll just break it down here. I'll put a visual in so you can look at it as well. But we got TCU, Nebraska, Colorado State. Then we start conference play with Oregon, USC, Arizona State, Stanford, UCLA. And then the last four games are Oregon State, Arizona, Washington State, and Utah. Now, this is a gauntlet of a schedule. There aren't really many gimmies on here. I mean, I think that we would have to be overwhelming favorites against Colorado State and Stanford. Outside of that, I mean, pretty much I think every game is going to be competitive, whether Colorado is on the winning or losing side of that. That is my hope and that is my expectation. Again, you saw last year that we weren't really competitive at all in really any games that we played except the one against Cal. And then we hung with TCU for the first half of last year, but that was before they even made the quarterback switch. And if you want to look at this conference too, if this is your first time paying attention to Pac-12 football, you got to understand that this isn't the same Pac-12 that was here maybe, 4 or 5 years ago. This is a deep conference where there's a lot of talented teams, quality teams. If you're looking at how the conference finished last year in the AP poll, top 25, you had 6 schools finish in the top 25. That was Washington, Utah, Oregon, Oregon State, USC, and UCLA. That's 6 teams. Now, once the California or the LA schools leave, that's still 4 teams in the top 25 out of your 10 schools. If you want to compare it, of course, a lot of people are trying to compare us to the Big 12. Again, they only had 3 finishers. They had TCU, they had Kansas State, and they had Texas. Now, of course, TCU had a phenomenal year going to the national championship. Big win over Michigan. They had a phenomenal year. I'm not trying to say that, the Pac-12 is, just definitely the number 3 conference right now in college football. All I'm trying to say right now is that this conference is no longer a slouch. One other thing that I did want to touch on is that while not every program in the Pac-12, of course, is in the top 25 or finished in the top 25, there are programs such as Arizona, Arizona State, especially, that I feel like are programs with some potential. Kenny Dillingham, I think, was a phenomenal hire for them, and they might have a freshman quarterback starting this year in Jalen Rashada. I know UCLA, again, they're on the schedule. They might have another true freshman starting, but this is a conference where there isn't going to be a lot of slouches. I mean, really, we're just wondering about Stanford and Cal and where they want to be within this new era of college football. But aside from that, there are a lot of promising teams that are building something special here in addition to the already competitive teams that the conference has. This conference schedule is going to be competitive and it's going to be tough. It's not going to be a cakewalk, especially for a team that, yes, is bringing in a ton of talent, but you got to understand there's new systems, there's new learning, there's new way of doing things. You're developing chemistry with all of these new players on both offense and defense. If there's anybody that can kind of defy all those factors and have an incredible year that exceeds most people's expectations, that would be Coach Prime. But I think like right now I'm wanting to take a measured approach with what my expectations are for the season. So you got to understand too, CU hasn't won a bowl game since 2004. So that's almost 20 years ago. It would be an A+ year from Coach Prime if we're bowl eligible and we get a bowl win for our first time in 20 years. That would be phenomenal. I'm ready to start building the Coach Prime statue if that happens. That would be huge. I think the likely range right now is probably between 5 and 7 wins, just looking at the schedule. I'm not going to do like an official prediction of if we win or lose games, but I only see probably a couple games where it's like, okay, Stanford, Colorado State, maybe Arizona, which is like, we should definitely handle business and take care of these games and get these wins. I mean, that's 3 right there. I think we can get another 3 from somewhere, but they're going to be close and competitive games. This is a quality, deep schedule. So I think if we were to get to the bowl season in Coach Prime's first year, that would be amazing. If we get like 4 or 5 wins, I would give probably Coach Prime like a grade B. Of course, a grade A+ in recruiting, but I think likely is that we reach that 6 wins. That's what I'm hoping for. We reach that bowl, and I think one thing that I'm hoping that Rick George is on top of is I think if we exceed those expectations or meet those expectations, which are high, I think 6 wins is a high expectation for a team that went 1-11 last year. We got to be talking about a new contract for Coach Prime already. Yes, he's within the top 15 paid head football coaches in college football right now. But again, we want to make him comfortable. We want to make him feel loved. And we want to make him feel like, he's the best at what he's doing. Now, if we're winning double-digit games, I'm going as far as saying we got to put together a deal that makes him one of the top 5 paid college football coaches in college football right now. But I think regardless, you got to be reworking this deal where you're getting him more money. You're bringing him into that double digits in terms of millions. And I would rather the athletic department be ahead of that, be okay rewarding in some eyes earlier than expected or whatever. Who gets a new contract after 1 year? Not many people. But Coach Prime isn't just anybody. He's one of one. So that's what I would like to see happen. I would like to see us get to 6 wins at least, get to a bowl game, get a win, extend Coach Prime, and, really build something special here. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. What are your expectations for Coach Prime? What's the criteria by how you're judging this year? And I look forward to discussing this with you. Again, apologies, I'm still behind on responding to so many comments, but I'm getting to it this weekend. Again, thanks for checking out my video, and Go Buffs.